I'll call the Thursday, August 15th, 2024 Town of Rome Board meeting to order. Roll call starting on my left, please.
Stevenson here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Cole here.
Gabriel here.
Certify the posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Tuesday, August 13th, 2024, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, August 15th was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 12:16 p.m., Quick Trip at 12:09 p.m., Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 12:01 p.m., and the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 11:40 a.m.
Thank you. Need a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move that we approve the agenda, with the exception, we're going to delete item 16 because it's already incorporated in number 15.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cole to approve the agenda, second by Supervisor Gabriel to approve the agenda with the removal of 16 because it's actually part of item 15. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of Allegiance. Citizen comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any this evening?
We have one. Mr. Fisher, would you like to come to the podium, please?
And can you just sign it, give us your name and address?
Brian Fisher, 1093 East Queensway. Yeah, I just wanted to thank all the voters in the town of Rome that showed up on Tuesday to vote. It was an awesome turnout, and I hope we can keep going. We did way over the state average. I know that, and so just keep going. That's all I want to say, really. Just thank everybody for coming out.
I want to thank you. Thank you for that comment, and thank you to Madam Clerk for her first election as on her own as clerk, and your crew. You did an amazing job that day. The turnout, I think, was more than anybody expected. What was the final number?
1,089 voters.
That was excellent. I think it probably had something to do with a change to the Constitution again, was part of it, I think. And thank you to everyone for the fine job you did that day. We really do appreciate everybody's work. They put in some long hours. I don't think they got out of here before just before midnight.
Quarter to 11.
So thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Since you
Brian.
mentioned that, I'm gonna
Put a plug in.
To anybody that thinks it's fun to write in somebody's name. You caused about an hour and a half's worth of work for our poll workers on Tuesday night, because when there's nobody running in the election for a position, and you write somebody's name in there, you've essentially nominated that person, and now we have to do a tally sheet, hand tally all those write-ins. We had over 100 write-ins on Tuesday night. So please don't do that. It makes a lot of extra work for your poll workers who are already very tired.
So if you think it's fun nominating yourself for district attorney, that's what happens. But anyway, thank you everyone again for getting out and voting and for our poll workers. All right, moving on. I'll also read, I forgot to read that though, during the citizen comment period, but I'll move on to the board will also take comment from the public on agenda items as called by the chair, but not during the citizen comment. Please note that once the board begins discussion on an agenda item, no further comment will be allowed from the public. Now, we do have a guest speaker here this evening, and if there are comments during the discussion period, we'll allow people to speak, ask questions, but you will have 3 minutes to speak, and if you've spoken once, have additional comments, we'll take them as they come, but we'll limit people so everybody has a chance. Next item, no action contemplated except possible referral to a future agenda. Discussion only, presentation by Rain Garner, project engineer, operations leader for MSA on the Town of Rome Master Park Draft Plan, and she is our guest here this evening by request of the Parks Chair, Dan Minter, and his committee. So welcome, Rain. Thank you. And there are some samples up here of what the proposed concept is on the blue poster board. If anybody wants to see them, you could pass them around. And she'll have it up here on the screen if she wants to turn it and show it to the audience. I don't know, Jason, maybe you could help her turn it to face the audience.
Vanna White it.
Oh, but you need to be by the microphone, otherwise people can't hear you.
Reverse this
Or,
as
yeah, or
best as we can here.
reorientate yourself so you can see it, and stand if you need to, whatever.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Some new faces again, but I'm Rain Gardner with MSA Professional Services. I have a background in public works and parks and recreation, and so I've been excited to be a part of a long history with your park, from the conception of an original master plan several years ago when the splash pad was developed to now, reimagining the park itself. And we're here tonight to present the draft master plan that we've come to build out and kind of discuss the various pieces of it and look for comments tonight. And as Lori had mentioned, that this would potentially come back in front of the town board at a later date for adoption, for planning purposes into the future, what could be implemented in the park space. So I will spin around the park itself and kind of introduce some of the concepts and a little bit of why some of the things are positioned where they are. A lot of the park design nowadays is about inclusivity. It's not about cramming everything into one space, every possible recreational opportunity into a space. It's got to be well planned out to build that sense of place. A lot of people come to communities because of their parks. It's not only visitors, but residents want to move to parks because of how well they're maintained and developed within a community. And we've seen that through our history of planning and developing parks. So we took some of that as to what you guys have already implemented and have been planning for and built out further what this overall space could be. And we actually were able to add in the westerly parcel up on top here and make that connection within the various park spaces itself. I think originally the town had started with the square park, this section here, that allowed, you had restrooms there, you had park shelter there. Getting back now. Just how I touched it. Yep. Go that way. Hopefully everybody can hear me still. Okay, we'll leave it there. And so from that, when we were brought on to do some just, big picture master planning, it was really driving force was to implement the splash pad that is now there. And along with that, the town had plans to add the playground. So that had happened, and I'm trying to remember actually what year, but several years ago. And I think it's been pretty successful. I've seen users there on my drive-through to check it out and whatnot after years of it being up and running. So that splash pad and playground area is located right there. And then the overall concept was built upon. And so from there, the town had put in the band shell and restrooms there. And from then, it's kind of some of the driving forces as a community develops. They're looking for other amenities within the park space. So Lori had reached out, and we talked about the park itself and where things were being developed and needed, and pickleball, which is big in every community, was another driving piece, which we've implemented into the park plan. So I will walk through the rest of this here. So originally when the park plan was developed the first time, we were looking for a highly active recreational node, and that area builds upon where the splash pad and the playground is located in this general area. And within that area, we're looking to add some additional recreational playground pieces, such as zip lines, which are highly popular. My children, I have 2 boys, they stayed in line, and that's all they do at the playground now if there's a zip line. And it's just a singular zip line. There is a character image right here. It's not like you're going from tree to tree or anything high off the ground. Parents do it too. We have lots of adults use them. But there's several different types of zip lines, but looking to activate kind of that back side of the playground area in that location. We also have a play berm kind of dividing the space because of the uses. Again, people using the splash pad and the playground area are going kind of back and forth between those in the summer months. So we have a play berm dividing that highly active use of the zip lines and the splash pad and playground area. And that can be used to sit on, sunburn, lay out your towels, watch your kids from both directions. I mean, with my 2, I can't keep track of both of them at the same time. They're both doing different things. Alongside the zip lines would be some active game table areas or yard games like we like to call them. So down here we have some concrete, just a character image of checkerboard tables, there could be ping pong tables. There's a lot of different events that can be put into the yard game area. Just helps to activate all user groups using the parks. And then looking to build back in some of the restoration. A lot of the trees were cut down, obviously, for the development of the park, but if you can see in the lighter green areas and trees, there's a lot more being added to the sides to help frame out the park itself and the uses, as well as providing the shade that is needed, definitely in a park space. So item 11 is a hardtop open air park shelter, which is shown in this image here. It's a rough idea, character image again, of what could be put in that space. And then 15, where the blue triangles are located, would be some sunshades. And sunshades are more of a fabric type structure just to provide shade in the summer months in those general areas where a lot of people are gathering. As we progress to the south, we have a transition again within the park space. So we want to develop a new sense of space within the zones. And so we're progressing from kind of like that active family area to some hammock areas. These are extremely popular. A lot of people bring their own hammocks. Otherwise, you can implement and keep some in place. But it's just a place to kind of transition between a really active area to then what would be your band shell, and where you might have concerts and people are a little bit more relaxing, or maybe even renting the space for a party. It just is a transitional area that moves into your shelter and band shell. And then in front of it is a concrete pad that we would look to add. What we've seen with the use of those spaces, it extends the use of the shelter itself. For picnic tables, or if you are having concerts, putting chairs on it. Some people like to have their chairs on a hard surface. It also allows for dancing if you got a rockin' band that night. And then frames it out with some other benches. So it just provides that inclusive use and accessibility to the band shell itself. You do still have that open green space out in front of the band shell in this area here. Off to the two sides are some benches with shade structures over them. So again, more shade, trying to provide that framing of the space, but allow all users to be able to use the space. And finally, to the south, we do have some more hammock areas, so that if somebody's there for the concert, or if you got young active kids, you need to kind of be out of the main space sometimes because they're running around. You know, it's kind of a nice area to blend families in that general proximity. When we implemented the splash pad, we did add a speed table located right here. So if anybody's driven through the square area there, you would see that, and that is to hopefully slow down cars because there's a lot of traffic going between the spaces, between the green space park and the restrooms. Especially children that don't look both ways. I mean, I had a UPS driver person jump out of the truck on my way up here right in front of my car. So even adults, you know, jump out. And so hopefully that would slow vehicles down. They're watching for pedestrians going through that area. What we're looking to do is, because of the highly active use in the area and a lot of the businesses in the area, people are walking between the different spaces. We'd look to potentially add some additional speed tables in this general area just to provide more safety. To then move to the west side of the park itself, we are looking to activate this space in a different way, so it has a different space feel but still ties together. We are looking to add the pickleball courts, which are highly anticipated, along with a basketball court. Those kind of mirror the sport court area, kind of mirrors itself together. We usually join them up. It's a cost savings to put them together as well, and activate the space in a different way, where you got also walkers going around. We set that at a 1/4 mile loop, so anybody looking to get mileage and put in their miles, they know what they're actually, as many times they go around the loop 4 times, they got a mile in. It's highly recommended to do that, and we've seen the request from a lot of communities looking for those kind of loops and walking areas. Within that space, we are looking to add some exercise nodes along the trail. So as you do walk, you could add those pieces. If you've been to some of the outdoor fitness areas, you can have an elliptical, you can have some weights. There's a bunch of different pieces of equipment that can be added that are stationary for outdoors, put on those pads to be used. Within that space, just trying to activate it and soften. The hardscape that would be added there is a lot of the green space items you're seeing in here, areas for people to meditate and get in this area, greening up some of the areas, looking at potential for, you know, stormwater and drainage to make sure it's self-contained to the site itself. I'm trying to think of what else here. I think that's everything on the list. So it's a different sense of place, and trying to pull it apart, knowing that there's a lot of noise when the courts are being used. And so if you are having an event in the other part of the park, we're separating those uses, so that people can still be active in the space, but yet having events as well in that general area. With that, we just, with the pieces that we've added, and we've had a lot of discussion on what made sense, what could be added, what isn't here, what else could be squeezed in. We felt it was a good mix of uses, amenities to really bring people to the community, to use the space. We've seen improperly planned parks, and unfortunately then they don't get used, and you have a cross between recreation. You don't have maybe the ADA accessibility across the park. So a lot of thought went into the process to add the pieces to what's already been there, to reactivate it and pull it all together. So hopefully, if you guys are wanting to discuss this, hopefully you like what we've put together, but I'm happy to entertain any questions or comments from that point.
I just had an initial comment, and then I was going to turn over to the park chair and his counterpart, Cheryl, because they're both the ones that serve on that committee, and then we can open it up to questions. But you had shared some comments originally when you met with us and that, and you had talked about how good planned parks drive the heart and soul of a community, and you just referenced how it drives higher use because you hate to see dead features, and that also drives economics in a community as well, and more businesses there. And then you had also talked about how the family-centric socialization area in one part of the park versus the active and overactive areas of the park. And then something else you had also talked about was it's worth it, how it's investing in your future and the growth of the community, because as we're drawing in more families, and we even talked about this at CDA, workers with younger families, it builds that sense of community, and it draws them to that part of the town. Could you maybe address that a little bit?
Yeah, so kind of in the early 2010s, about when I started doing a lot more park designs, the Knight Foundation and teamed up with Gallup to do a study as to what the soul of the community is. So if you Google that, it's out there. It's a great video. It's a 2-minute video that talks about it, and it hasn't gone away. In 15 years, it's actually been way more reinforced, especially since COVID, that parks are super important to our infrastructure within our communities. As important as, and it's crazy for me to even say as a public works engineer, as sewer, water, it's considered infrastructure. It is getting funded, even with the new bill funding that has come out, parks are being funded because they've seen how important they are to our health, our mental well-being. And so that Soul of the Community video really still hits upon good planned parks, maintain keeping things maintainable for the community itself, drive people to come visit. They also drive people to come live there, and we've seen that. I've experienced it. I mean, you're one of your communities to the south here in Mauston. I did a park there, Riverside Park, in 2013. I actually heard people in the city of Baraboo say, hey, have you been to that park in Mauston? I really actually want to move to Mauston now because of that park. So we've seen that turn happen for communities, and so well-planned, well-developed parks do drive that. They drive then businesses coming to your community because they see people coming here. They're like, hey, I can make money from that, or I can support when they come here. This park here is a park where you're not going to just come for an hour. You may, but it's a park where you might drive people to be here for a few hours, which then in turn says I'm going to go across the street, I'm going to have some lunch or dinner, I'm going to go play mini golf, I'm going to go, do a couple other things around the square itself, and stay in the town. And then that drives them to want to come again and again and again, and maybe they buy a house here. I mean, we've seen that happen. So it's always exciting to see well planned out parks and developed parks bring that sense to the community.
Okay, thank you very much. And then with that, Dan, did you want to just, or?
Well, yeah, a couple of things I want to say is, this is an initial presentation tonight, and it's our first opportunity to really talk about the ideas for the park. And that's what it is. It's a concept plan. So I want everyone to just be aware. It's a concept plan. It's not like we're going to say, oh, we're voting on this to approve lock, stock, and barrel the entire thing. That's not it. I also want to say, and I just got these tonight, so I haven't had a chance to review them, but we did have, as of, when did you print this?
this morning, well, this afternoon,
Okay.
but we're gonna keep it open for a
Right, so
while.
we're still keeping the survey open, so for
We had
those that are at home,
193
you can still
people.
go online and keep filling in the survey if you haven't done it yet. But we did have, as of right now, 163 people have responded to the survey. And there's a whole bunch of information, which I know my fellow members of the Park Commission have not seen this yet.
Just got it today.
So that'll be part of our topic on Monday when we have our Parks Committee meeting, which public is welcome to come back to on Monday if you would like to. It's at 5 p.m. here, and we'll continue this discussion. But I really want to hear, I think we as a committee, I'll speak for the committee hopefully, and say that what we want to hear from those of you that are here tonight. Particularly if you didn't respond, even if you did, but particularly if you didn't respond to the online survey, I'd like to hear what some of your thoughts were as you looked at this and you thought about it, because that's part of our job, is to get your input to help us make the best decisions with the funding that we have, or that we could potentially look at trying to get. Parks are not cheap. Roads are not cheap. We all, nothing is cheap anymore. But we want to hear, I'd like to hear more from the public that's here. And if members of the Park Committee want to speak up too tonight, that you're perfectly welcome to. And we just want to hear, what are your thoughts? So please share with us, if you'd like to.
I'll go first.
Please come forward.
All right.
And like usual, name and address, please.
Lisa Kubis, 1493 Silver Canoe Trail. I just have a couple things. So this summer, Visit Rome put on 4 events at the band shell. Very well attended. What I would like to see, just from, putting on an event, the food truck situation is really awkward. It would be great to have some kind of cement pad or a designated area where the food trucks and the beverage trucks could set up. The electricity, there isn't enough electric outlets for more than 2 trucks, or maybe we can run some into the building, but then the wires are going across, where people are walking. So more electric is probably needed, and a designated area. They really don't know where to even pull in to set up. That gravel driveway is not really big enough to accommodate a truck with pulling a food truck. So they've been, they've been kind of pulling into
Saw that.
from that area.
And there's a power box, Lisa, right off of the side of the
Yep.
roadway over there that they were all trying to share with long cords.
Yep.
And, yeah,
Yeah.
so, all right.
So that's number 1. Number 2, we talked about a lot of stuff for kids, a lot of stuff for very active people, but really this community is a lot of older people. So is there anything that the park could do, that older people would like? I don't know if it's a putting green, I'm not sure, but maybe that's something. We just have an older community, so
Well,
just
in some of
wondering.
the gaming, yard game area, we find, the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could come up so
Yeah.
people can hear you at home,
Yep.
please, Rain.
So the yard game area, the pickleball courts, one of the things that we've noticed in parks is that they are cross-generational when they're being used. So a lot of times grandparents are bringing their younger kids to the parks, even though they're not using them. We do have the walking paths, things like that. But if there's other types of amenities that, certain demographics want, we can look at that, so.
I didn't know if there were parks that you've done that really cater to an older audience.
The walking path is the biggest thing. It is the number 1
Sure.
item that we get from that age group, for sure, so.
And it was surprising too, the number of people just touching on the survey a little bit, and they can go in more of it, maybe detail at their meeting, or we can touch on it throughout the evening here, but that people responded across the board to some of those features, like the concrete games, the checkers, the chess, even the ping pong or the bags. So those seem to be things that it's a placemaking. Placemaking is a term from the 50s and 60s, but it's still relevant in developing common spaces for people to gather. And it's really interesting that even our survey said all of these things were the same. It's like they gather there to relax, spend time together, playtime for children, and special, it's all equal. It's very interesting, this little survey we have, and we'd be happy to share it, but we're gonna keep it open, and we'll decide, the chair and their committee can decide what they wanna do with the information as we keep gathering it, but those items were just for 55 plus and older with the walking, and then those other items that they can sit and play and converse and socialize. People wanna connect again, and that's very evident. Yes,
Can I say one other thing? So during the concerts, Visit Rome we have some games. We have a giant Jenga, we have a giant Connect Four, and then we put our bags boards out. Those were used almost continuously throughout the events. So just wanted to mention that.
thank you.
Yep.
Just a quick question. Do you have a summary of the survey?
He
results?
called, can you just,
Okay, I just thought.
we
that-
will share it, but let him, thank you.
So I'm Bob Barheit at 818 Manchester Court. And as a prior Parks and Rec chairman since the Parks and Rec became into existence, just want to remind everybody that we had 5.5 years of planning on the park. We're limited by the amount of funds that we had, and we were able to construct the band shell, and we had a list of things. The park, as Lisa says, needs many, many things, and a lot of those attributes we had planned for. As I look at this plan here, and the list of items that are here, it kind of reminds me of going through the main street in downtown Dells. There's everything there. And we don't have room nor money for all these things. No one has mentioned yet the price of this. It's over $2 million, I can assure you. So it looks like just everything was kind of thrown in here. They've ignored the existing things that we have, like here we already have a nature path with plans for benches and exercise activities around that area. So that's there already and it has been used. The noise concern was really brushed over. This plan only shows from here south. It doesn't show what's up above here. What's up above there are apartment buildings. People live there. They want to be outside and have their windows open when they can. And there was a concern about pickleball courts when we had them planned just north of the band shell here. And our plan there was to mitigate that noise by providing shrubbery and trees around that. And there's really no area there that is affected by the noise other than anybody that would be up here by the gazebo. So also, when you have pickleball courts here, and I assume that they're going to be widely used, I think there's 6 of them there. There are no restrooms in that area. There's no food service in that area. Here you have restrooms and food service, which is where we had planned for the pickleball courts. Parks and Rec, and I think most people would agree, feel that we need parking in this area. If you ever go to a concert, if you go to the Friday afternoon sales, people are parked all over here. This area was originally designated by a prior board as a parking area, and I think it should be implemented. If not there, then someplace else. This plan, been asked what is the genesis of this plan. This plan was done at the request of our town chairman. And during the planning process, no one came to Parks and Rec to ask what we had already planned on and what our thoughts were. So I think that should have been happening. The ice rink. We talked about an ice rink repeatedly during the prior 5.5 years. With global warming and the age of our population, we just didn't see it as a viable opportunity at all. So I would say, in my mind, this is not a plan. it's rather a list or a catalog of activities that you could present. And I think anybody could have put it together.
Excuse me, but I appreciate your comments, but please don't insult our guest.
I'm not insulting anyone. I'm just
She's a learned
commenting on the
engineer,
plan.
but continue.
I think a plan would consider the makeup of our community and what people want and what they are used want to be using. Obviously, I think that's a walking path. I think that's parks and benches. I think that's pickleball courts. I think that's access to restrooms and food service. So those are kind of the thoughts I had. I guess,
Your time is up.
fine, as Parks and
Your
Rec
time is
Chairman,
up.
I wish that
Thank
they
you.
had come to us.
Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Did you have something to say, Supervisor Gabriel?
Yeah, when, you can let him go.
Oh,
I have a few
okay,
comments.
yes.
Yeah, Russ Plato. I own the apartments on 265 Geneva Trail. Yeah, I got big concerns. I've been doing a lot of research. And yeah, I got a couple of questions. I mean, with the noise abatement, basically is my
I need an address, please.
265 Geneva Trail, Geneva Apartments. Apartments that are right next
Do
to
you
the
live there? Well, she needs
proposed
your home address, please.
6011 East Valley Court, Wisconsin Rapids.
Thank you.
So noise abatement is my main concern. I don't know, how many of you know what the decibel level of these pickleball courts are? The courts that would be right next to the apartments? Do we know what that is? They run about 70 decibels is what is the norm. I have a 2,800 watt generator that runs at 55 decibels, just to give you an idea how loud. Typically, everybody knows what a generator is, right? So I guess my question to you, would you rent or move right next to pickleball courts? Now, when I bought this property, it was told that these were parking lots. Now, I've spent millions of dollars in these apartments. I would never, ever, in my right mind, have bought that property and put apartments next to a pickleball court. It makes no sense. I don't think my renters would like it. I don't think when the windows are open, so forth, they want to listen to those noises. It just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention what it would do to my property value if I wanted to sell the place. Just to give you an example, I stayed at a place at a golf resort in Tucson, Arizona. Those pickleball courts, when I went out on my deck, a second floor deck, those pickleball courts were probably 2 to 3 blocks away across I could hear them like they were right next to me. And they had fencing around that area, so on and so forth. So the noise, again, is a big concern. And again, circling back to when I bought that property, it was told those are gonna be parking lots. That's how it came across. That's what was shown to me on the town map here and so forth, future parking. That was the premise of why I ended up with my apartments in that particular space. You know, and again, been doing a lot of research. Nationwide, there's a lot of lawsuits against HOAs, country clubs, small towns, with regards to noise abatement. So I'm just gonna tell you straight up, I'll take legal action should you decide to move forward with this plan. I'm just letting you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a couple of things. Rain, could you address that with, I know we had one gentleman say that he lives in a condominium in Florida, and the noise levels where they live and that sort of thing, and it is, we have discussed that. And for clarification, for previous Supervisor Bob Bauerheit, that this whole issue came before the Plan Commission and the Town Board, and the Town Board did vote on it. You were the only nay vote, that this did not go to MSA. No, I'm not, I did not ask you a question. Rain, would you please address the issue of noise with pickleball courts and what we had discussed? And at the time when the original plan was developed years ago, there were 2 pickleball courts. They asked, the previous park plan, you had put in 6, but if the money doesn't allow us to put in 6, we may not be able to do 6.
Yeah, that's
So, and we
correct.
haven't even determined if we're gonna put these in or not, because the pickleball club currently plays at Lake Arrowhead. This is a concept plan. And we've also talked to many of our experienced contractors that using prime Rome Town Center land for other developments, for parking, would be an unwise venture. But if you could speak to any of
Yeah,
that for us, please.
so a little bit on pickleball. Obviously, yes, there is noise concerns, and we've had several discussions about it. Talking about, is there something with the fencing that can be done, and there are noise barriers that can be actually attached to the court fencing itself. Vegetation helps with it. Pickleball noise is the same as car noise, so if we're gonna compare the two, the decibels are the same, in that use in that area. A lot of communities are going away with adding parking in their green space park. They are making users park on the streets that are adjacent to the park spaces. That is a trend that's happening across Wisconsin. We see it. City of Appleton, they actually said reduce the number of stalls in the park you're designing. We want people to park on the adjacent streets in the neighborhoods because we need to maximize the green space, and there's no reason people can't park. It's an example. I've had it multiple times in other park spaces. They've been pushing parking out of the parks because they want to be able to maximize the space itself. So with the discussion of that and knowing, yes, this is a highly active area, there is a lot of on-street parking. There are ways to activate it differently, add more on-street and actually pull off safely so people aren't parking on the shoulder. You guys have some curb and gutter already for those bump out areas, but extending it further, which is what we've talked about in those areas. Some of that parking can actually be built into flex space, so to address the food truck situation, if the parking bump out is built properly, it can be utilized for the food trucks in a unique way. We've used flex space parking. You brought up the City of Wisconsin Dells. We've built that into those spaces in their downtown areas when they are needing to add different types of events or uses. They flex their parking. They extend their sidewalks out and move their planters. They move them back in when they need it for parking on the streets, or they move them out for the food trucks. So there are ways to work within this. Again, this is a master plan. My experience, not everything gets implemented in a master plan, and it may change in years to come again, but this is at least a document for the town to move forward with on trying to plan for any of the funding. You have to have an adopted plan to request for funding and put in grant applications themselves. Yes, costs are high, but, there's funding out there to offset those costs for these uses in the space.
Thank you for touching on that. Could you elaborate a little bit more with the bill money and other money that's available at the state level and recreation grants, that if we don't have an adopted plan like this, that's more updated, that we also put into our court plan that we're going to adopt, we won't get considered for grant money or other monies that are available?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the corp too, because we did take the information and the comments from the court plan, look at those results, and look at what people were asking for within the park space to implement the features that are in this space. So we did take comments from the community that you guys had already collected through your comprehensive outdoor rec planning process. Funding requirements now, because money is becoming more competitive, people are trying to set their communities up to get funding. They are requesting that not only you have an adopted master plan and corp, but you also even get further with some of the design before you even apply, because that's how competitive the funding is. So having these already in place is going to set you above other people who are still thinking about whether they should do something with their parks, so.
And when the costs, those are all estimates, and as Supervisor Minter knows, in that when this was given to him, these are all estimates. It depends on if you want 2 or 4 or something, 6 or 8 of something. This is not something that we said we were going to spend, is that correct?
No, correct. It's just to give you a snapshot of what's on this plan. We laid it out on a phased approach because it may not be, you know, the ability to chew off the whole thing and put the whole thing in right away. And it is totally based on the fact that if you are pursuing funding, when the funding pieces come together, there are different grants for different amenities. So when those come available, if you have an adopted plan, you can quickly shuffle to try to chase that particular grant. If it's for trails, you could quickly, with this plan, chase money for the walking trails and the sidewalks within the park. If it's for the pickleball courts and it came up, you know, you have this plan and you can chase that piece. So it is phased to hopefully help guide you in the future to build out the park.
Could you just speak to the parking down there where you have those two concrete walkways by where the culverts, yes, and that, how those were set up or planned with your landscaping engineer, that those could be for ADA compliant, people with walkers or wheelchairs could get with angled parking, that was part of the plan?
Yeah, so the ability to add additional on-street parking on the sides here, from those areas, by adding that, the connectivity is providing sidewalk, for anybody that might have a disability or need a hard surface to walk on, connects those additional parking areas so they can get closer to the stage area, the event space in that area. I will quickly address the ice skating rink. A lot of people want to activate for winter use. We all know, yes, we are in different change of times with climate. I'd like to think winter would come back to Wisconsin at some point. I don't know, but we do know it's cyclic. So a lot of people do plan for ice rinks, whether it goes in or not. It's, you know, your choice. Again, it's a very low cost item depending on how you want to maintain it and put it
Can I
in.
stick to the ice rink for a minute?
Yeah, yeah.
I think many of us in here are of an age when we remember that we would take a hose out into our backyard and flood part of our backyard, and then it would freeze and we could skate on it. I've actually had a conversation with Chief Taub that he says initially, if we wanted to try out an ice rink, he could take the fire trucks out there and flood it, and it would freeze if it was cold enough. You know, because the part of it was, we'll put in an artificial rink. We're not looking at artificial rink initially. We'd flood it and you make use of it like we make use of the natural ice any place. So, you know, but it's just something to do in the wintertime because you're obviously not playing on the splash pad in the winter.
Right.
And we would be more than, this is not being withheld from anybody. Like I said, we just got this afternoon. We ran the numbers really, really quick. Our clerk was kind enough to print it off. But believe it or not, ice skating got 61% or 61 votes. I mean, so there's an interest for winter events, and Visit Rome often talks about having more winter activities. So, and there's a fireplace there, and there's a window for food and hot chocolate, and we're bringing Christmas to Rome in the park. So it all lends itself to other opportunities. And again, folks, this is a draft concept plan, and we have to have one in place to have our opportunity to grab some of the money that's in the bucket down in Madison.
Just quickly on the ice skating rink, because that is seen as an additional way to activate your green space, is in the winter months, the ice skating rink is always something low-hanging fruit that people bring up, so you can, you know, make it natural, flood the space. Just as another example, as you progress, and let's say it's super popular, the synthetic rinks are definitely coming back. We are working on one with the city of Fond du Lac. Just knowing that they've had troubles keeping ice frozen, they're looking at putting an actual synthetic rink in for the first time because they've, you know, want to make sure that people can use the space in the other months.
And they're all different sizes and all different costs.
Absolutely.
And again, it's something that you budget for, or you ask for money for, or you beg for, or you get grants for, or, and maybe you can address, Irene touched on this briefly, and then we'll allow more questions and conversation. Oh, yes, but you, small dollar, big impact, we talked about
Right,
that.
so-
Some of these items featured on the side there, most
Right.
important shade.
So part of the reason why we're looking at getting the public, well, we'd like to have public input, but is obviously, you know, given the funding situation, we want to find out what are the people looking to have, and then we have to balance that with what are the costs. You know, if everybody wants to have the most expensive feature, well, that's going to take us longer to get, or more effort to get perhaps, in terms of finding funding. But some of the things can be acquired relatively inexpensive. Benches are not that expensive. Walking trails, depending upon whether they're gravel surface or concrete surfaces, you know, they are on the lower end of the scale. Those concrete game tables are, you know, individually not that much. Collectively, they would be a little more if you buy 6 of them. But that was the reason for wanting to gather this input, was to figure out, okay, what are the most popular features, and then can we afford those features, or in what progression can we afford those features? It would be great to go out and say, yes, we have $2.some-odd million, and let's put everything in at one time. No, with all the other needs that the town has, that's not gonna happen in one fell swoop. And some of it may never happen, or it may get morphed into something else. We might put out a few of those, say those concrete game tables or the zip lines, and that might become really popular. Well, okay, if they're really popular and there's like a waiting line to get on the thing, you might want to consider, do we put out another one? And so, yes, and I appreciate the previous work that the previous park committees have done on this, getting that the band shell in there, and the ideas for all that. These are some connecting pieces, I think, that can work. So that's, and I just saw this when I got here to the meeting tonight. I haven't even had a chance to more than page through it. So I do promise the members of the Park and Recs Committee that are here, you will get a copy of this in time for our meeting on Monday night when we talk some more about this. And probably either after this meeting or after our Monday meeting, the results to date, we can post back to the town website as well. So the people can see what other people have expressed an interest in. Keeping information secret is definitely not in our plan.
No.
And it's not in our best interest, it's not in the town's best interest.
Correct. Mr. Gabriel, or Supervisor Gabriel, please.
Just a couple of items. We currently have a walking trail around the Great Lawn. I see in the drawing now that walking trail is covered over with grass and greenery. Why would we eliminate an existing walking trail that the DPW just re-gravelled this year?
Oh, nobody's suggesting that, and that
It's
one,
not I'm just saying, I don't see it on the map, that's why.
You're talking up here?
No, I'm talking about the one around the Great Lawn.
There's a walking trail around the Great Lawn.
I just don't see it on the map. Unless,
I don't think she eliminated it.
I just don't see it. Okay, that's fine. Second item would be with where the pickleball courts are located, in your speed bump there, this Geneva Trail, I see the street the whole summer. In the last 7 years, this Geneva Trail has become a cut-through street to avoid the stoplights at Quick Trip. And I brought it to Jason's attention once already. There are cars going 40, 50 miles an hour down that street, and it's basically a UTV route. If you start putting cars on both sides of that street with a speed bump, some kid's gonna walk up between those cars and is gonna get flattened. There has to be something else done in that section there. That is a main cut-through street on the weekend for the ATVs and everybody else to avoid this intersection up here. And the speeding on that street is not 25 anymore. It's 35 or 40 miles an hour down that street. So we have to take into account some other type of parking situation. So if we got cars on both sides of the street and little kids and one speed bump, that's my point. And yes, we do need to get some parking somewhere, because when there are events in this business park, it is affecting the current businesses that are in this business park. The farmer's market affects me every Friday. The concerts are not too bad, because that's sort of down there. But as more events happen in here, the businesses that are in this business park and whatever else is in here should have a right to their entrances and for their customers to get to them. And it is becoming an issue currently with the events in the existing businesses. So some type of additional parking is gonna have to be considered in the long run.
somewhere in the park, we gotta find some.
Somewhere in the park, but it also has to be close enough to the event, or people aren't gonna wanna park to walk. We see it with the farmer's market. The church offers parking there. But people will sneak, ask Jason how many times I've called the police department this year. They literally park my entrances shut. I have to call the police to have them come talk to somebody. So putting a parking lot not in the vicinity of this is gonna do us no good because the church currently offers parking for the farmer's market, and there ain't a vehicle parked in that parking lot on a Friday morning. So we have to somehow figure out a way to park people if we wanna have events.
It's a good point. Is it possible that behind there, Mr. Plato, you already, we'll allow others to speak, okay, and then we'll call on you again, because we do have a regular meeting yet tonight, but, Rain, we had talked, and I know, Emma as a landscaper, kind of went happy with the walking trail and the beautification and the natural plantings and that, because Supervisor Minter loves natural plantings and trails, with, behind the sports court area. If that area was left, I mean, there's quite a bit of acreage there, but to give up prime areas, those are close to the restrooms we currently have. It's no farther to those restrooms from there than it is to the other one, to where they are now. But that area behind there, that is still area that could be easily used for parking, is it not?
Yes.
I mean, even
Yeah.
with the sports courts there?
Yep.
I mean, I'm not good with distances on a.
No, it's
without-
easy to add. I mean, everything you guys are addressing, parking and how far people have to walk comes up in every single park plan and community, and that's just a judgment call on the town as to what they want to develop in the park space versus develop the parking. A lot of it comes down to enforcement issues, and that's a discussion as to how you want to enforce things with the parking and the non-compliance of people. It's unfortunate, and that happens, and it comes down to that, especially the speeding piece.
Did you want to call on some more people then, Supervisor Minter?
Is there any, I know Mr. Plato wants to speak one more time.
I
Is there
have a
anybody else that
comment.
would like to make any comments tonight
From the audience?
from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Oh, and then Mr. Bettis.
And Mr. Betts too, okay.
Oh, and Supervisor Cole.
Okay, all right, so one, two, three, and then Mr. Plato. Okay.
My name is Diana Dilge, 1308 Birdie Trail. I was very interested in the segregation that you had with regard to the passive and the transitional and the inactive portion. When you have a park designed like that and your expertise, is that something that would make this a successful park or one that is going to be considered poor if we don't follow that type of a guideline?
Yeah, sorry. Is that your only question, or you want to? So the separation of uses is really important, especially these active zones. We just completed the Marathon Park master plan for the city of Wausau and Marathon County, and we segregated the sport courts because of specific uses and needs. Those are activated at different times versus some of the other areas. We get talked to about just the generational use of the spaces. You don't put a basketball court right next to the playground because there's different language that's used there and seen. So, I mean, there are reasons why things are in these places because of longevity and uses in other spaces and parks that it makes sense to cluster things. We also were highly tasked with putting a plan together that is cost effective for the town to build. You start separating some of these pieces, or you put courts in one area and courts in another, you put parking here and you put that. It starts to really drive costs because you have construction happening in a bunch of different locations. So we're trying to cluster some of that together for constructability purposes.
That was Mr.
Ryan?
My name is Brian Betts, 1021 Chester Court, Nakusa. I think this is a fabulous plan, but somebody needs to figure out parking. I agree with you, Tom, is that when I go to the farmer's market, it just gives me all kinds of safety concerns and accessibility concerns and what it is. And I don't know what the engineering of this is or different things like that, but we should know about what the capacity of different things are. And when we have a large event here, like the farmer's market, there's not adequate parking. I don't know what the solution is, but somebody's got to have a formula or ratio to say if we're going to have 500 to 800 people or 1,500 people, there's going to need to be this much parking. And then the parking also needs to be something that is close proximity for people that are, accessibility needs, older people, things like that, because they're not going to walk a mile just to get to an event at the band shell here or something. They have to be somewhat close in proximity, or this doesn't work. And then you're going to be asking yourself, why do we have all this when nobody comes there? Well, they're not going to come there because there's not accessibility for parking. So that has to be issued. somehow it has to be addressed. I don't know, I'm not smart enough to know that, engineer, the city, whoever, you figure that out. But I know right now, I agree, it is not fair to businesses that when they come and people don't care. They're gonna park in your parking lot, they're gonna block your entrances, and that's not right to the neighbors. We are not being good neighbors as a town of Rome to the business owners in that community, that we want them, hey, come put your business here, but oh, by the way, we have a special event like the farmer's market, and people can't get there to their business because we haven't built adequate parking structures to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just address the
Well,
farmer's
can we
market?
who was the
It's
next one that
Robert
needed to go ahead?
Yeah,
and spoke?
Keith.
Yeah.
Supervisor Cole, then Mr. Plato, then Lisa.
It's hard for me to try to describe exactly what I want to say. We had a master park plan, and I think MSA designed it, correct? A previous plan. And it had the pickleball courts in a different location. And from my point of view, that plan was allowed to get old, get stale. The only things that could be built in that plan, the band shell, the splash pad, the music courts, were all from private funding and then limited funding from the town. So now we're moving it all around because now apparently when the first plan was designed, it was okay to have basketball and pickleball next to playgrounds. Now it's not. So something changed between then and now. Apparently people's language has gotten worse. The pickleball's gotten louder. I don't know. Something changed, or you were asked to move it out of there by the Plan Commission. So we've got kind of a candy store here now. It kind of reminds me, you go take a kid to a candy store and they see it all and they want it all, and then you tell them, but no, you can only have 4 things. It's hard to decide. So who's going to decide how we do this, how we can even pay for it? Because it's fantastic. Yeah, if we had all this, it was laid out like that, with the exception of Mr. Plato's concern, I agree with you. I think that's going to be kind of loud next to those apartments. It's like making the big candy store. We're never going to be able to buy all this. We're never going to be able to do all this. So it's just a drawing that looks pretty, that sounds nice. It's going to sit there, and maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that, because we can get funding for this, funding for that, maybe this over here. But when is it, how can you tell me it's going to come together? And I also, just one more point, would caution you from using surveys when you have 153 people that have responded to this survey. That is not a valid survey for a town of 3,000. It's all you have, so it has to be useful and you have to look at it. But I don't view it as really a solid, because you could just get 100 people that want pickleball, fill out the survey and send it in. So those are my points. I'm not trying to be negative. I want a beautiful park, but this seems too much for us.
You were correct, Supervisor Cole. It can be, I like the candy store analogy, actually. It's really true. It is it's a master concept plan. There's a lot of lists out there. As far as, how we can look at this, that's the process that we're beginning to go through now. Gathering some feedback here, gathering some feedback online, gathering some more feedback. Then at that point in time, then I guess it comes down to Parks and Recreation saying, okay, here's what we've been told by those that have told us, and for the other 2,900 people that haven't responded, well, that's their choice to respond or not respond. Then we have to say, okay, here's what we've been told. These are the items that seem to be these are the features that seem to be of most interest. Okay, how much are those features going to cost? And then in the end, it's the 5 of us sitting up here, along with putting the budget process together and looking for the funding and seeking grants from the state, seeking other funding. And obviously we have many other things competing for funding in the town between the connection under Highway 13 or the K-9 unit. And it is a balancing act, putting these budgets together. And Brian and I both run schools, and we know well that budget is probably the hardest thing to put together, and it's not made any easier by various restrictions that we have. So I don't know. Will we get most of it, all of it? I have no idea. If somebody could drop $2 million on us, yeah, that'd be really awesome, but I don't think there's anybody out there that's gonna drop $2 million in our laps, for putting everything in. So then we go step by step. You know, you did step by step with what we have now. I've only been here for 6 years, going on 7 now. You know, and, you know, there was the gazebo, and I heard about the farmer's market, and then at some point the splash pad was built. I think that was built before I came. And then the playground was next to it, and then the music things were put in, and now the band shell was built. You know, so it's been building out in stages, and realistically, it's going to continue to be built out in stages, because we're not gonna be able to put all of it in. Parking probably would be one of the first things that we need to address, because it doesn't pay to put something in only to have to rip it back out, because we gotta expand the parking. So parking probably needs to be looked at first, and that's gonna need Public Works involved in, and the engineers, with, okay, how do we make this parking? How do we make it so the food trucks have a spot where they can pull in? More food trucks the better at times, but then you need facilities for the food trucks. You need electricity sometimes. So, yeah, it's going to be stage by stage by stage. But like any plan, the plan is only as good as the people that are trying to task themselves with carrying it through and putting it into place. Otherwise, we'll sit there and we'll talk for the next 2 years about this, and some actions have to happen on a continual basis to bring this towards fulfillment. Will it look like this plan in the end, 10 years from now? I don't know. I don't think any of us know. So that's sort of my comment. Mr. Plato, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
It was really before Tom, gonna start talking about the parking and you people, not to beat a dead horse, but, and I know he said he had some issues with people blocking off and pulling in the, parking lot. I've had that at the apartments where they're parking in there and they park by my shop or what. I've never done anything about it. I haven't called the, enforcement to come do something. I think they got a better use of their time than to be doing that. I guess just so that kind of stuff is looked at. I don't think we want to be chasing, people out of spots and so forth with using the.
I think it's more making useful spaces that don't necessarily block the driveways of the existing businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna spend time, we don't wanna be doing that, using police time, our time to chase down people.
Angle parking was suggested, that's why those two cement pads are there. Angle parking would be more spaces closer to the band shell area. And then there's a sidewalk up from there where angled parking would be allowed. So parking is definitely, of course, on the top of the list. And interesting change of tune, but everybody can change their mind and different talking points. Surveys are surveys, and you'll get what you get when you get it. And it is now on Visit Rome, so thank you, Lisa, for putting it on there. We got a few more hits after you listed it, so with all your viewers, thousands of viewers. But Rain, if you wanted to give us some, if anybody else had anything they wanted to add or wrap,
I have to add this on parking. So, everyone sets up for the farmer's market. All the vendors get there about 7 to 8.
and they park there.
They all get the goods. Those
That's
50 to
right.
100 people get the best spots.
Thank you for bringing that up.
If we would
Thank you.
tell them, you set up and you go park in Lakes Christian Fellowship, that's going to free up 50 to 100 spots.
If we could talk to the church about that and see if they'd allow that, that would be great.
I mean, we have a sign made. The church does allow it.
Oh, that would be great. That's a great suggestion.
I don't
Maybe
know
we
how
could
to
talk
facilitate that,
Talk
but
with the chamber and Adams.
Lisa is correct. All the vendors,
and there are
Yeah,
trailers
they're
and their
at
trucks.
Like 6 in the
and-
morning already setting up. Thank you for
Yep.
bringing that up. Yep.
Anybody else want to make any other thoughts tonight?
Rain, you wanted to wrap up, or?
And if not, I'll just say again, for both those that are here and those that are listening online, please go and also put your input in on the survey. If you didn't feel the need or the desire to speak up tonight, that's the only way that we're going to know, to whatever extent it is that we will know some of the wishes.
survey can be found?
Survey can be found on the Visit Rome website and also on the town website
And Facebook,
and
our
the town Facebook page.
Are two official places for information.
So I was just gonna say, I appreciate you guys having me tonight to explain the plan. Obviously, we're here to serve the town, so based on your guys' direction and feedback, we can amend the plan. Everything is changeable. Obviously, it sounds like maybe you have more discussion on the parking and how it's being used, but I was gonna mention that it seems like parking is a higher issue than pickleball. When we originally started this pickleball, finding space for pickleball was highly used, but maybe parking is higher. Maybe that's where these active sport courts don't even belong in this park. And we did originally throw that out there that, you know, as parks grow, maybe the active sport courts need to find a different location altogether if noise is a huge concern, and that becomes the parking lot if that's the high need. I mean, those are things that we can go through and amend the plan, obviously, based on all the comments and the direction of the town, so.
Yeah, and I know Visit Rome has tossed it out. Their rec committee has said something about a recreation center, but we're not to that space either, and that's what held up the plan this summer to even build them. So we don't know where we're at with that, so, but we were gonna, that's why you left them in the plan now to move forward with that. So that's another part of the conversation, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, have a safe drive back home.
You're not staying for the rest of the meeting?
You wanna get beat up more? Sure.
Thank you for all those who came. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, everybody, for your attendance.
Parks Committee, I'll see you Monday at 5.
It's cold, it's very cold.
It's 7:69.
My toes are cold.
I'm freezing. I haven't been cold in here in weeks.
And if she ain't warm or cold, then.
Yeah. It's the first time I've been freezing in this building in a while.
It's 60 degrees outside. Yeah, it was 90 degrees yesterday and 60 degrees today. So.
No.
No, it'll go fast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll proceed then with the rest of the meeting. Information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events and announcements, starting on my left.
Just the Camelot Frolics are this weekend. Please step up and enjoy. It's a great time.
And before the Camelot Frolics from 10 to noon is the summer reading program Carnival Blast at the library.
There you go, got it in. I have a few, I got word from the emergency management director at Adams County that, as of yesterday, there weren't really that many, damages to town property or a lot of town expenses, so there's nothing really that we can recover from the state. And individuals are working with her on their properties, so there's nothing really that we can. Sure, that we can recover, different from the winter issue that we had a couple of winters ago that we could have recovered funds, but, we never moved forward on that, but. Then also Lake Shorewood Lodge, there's the Customer Appreciation Barbecue coming up to help support the Adams County Humane Society. They also have a big raffle, that's on Saturday, August 24th. Papa Bears, you wanna do yours, or do you want me to throw it out there?
You can throw it out there.
All right, Papa Bears is having a Putt for Paws on, August 20th. Shotgun start at 6:30 p.m. They'd like you to sign up if you can, it's rain or shine, $20 a person. You sign up on the Visit Rome, website under the gift shop, right? Okay.
The shop tab.
Oh, the shop tab. Yeah, online shop, and then the proceeds benefit the Adams County Humane Society, and I will tell you, some of the rescues I'm funding right now, they're getting more and more animals in because people cannot take care of their animals right now, or they're abandoning them, so people, please support your humane societies and your rescues, they need it. And they're also putting out a blanket for you to throw, if you don't wanna play mini golf, they're taking, donations of food or whatever you can for cats and dogs. So that's on the 20th of August. And then on August 24th, Saturday, from 11 to 3, got a busy rest of the month. There's a kids fishing frenzy contest hosted by Rome Outdoors at the Lake Camelot Lodge for age 17. Visit Rome is helping sponsor that. There's food, raffle prizes, door prizes, fun events for kids. Registration is free and it opens at 10 a.m. And the bait is being provided by their sponsor, Plover Bait. And go out and have a good time. Back to you.
So my thing was going to be much like Supervisor Cole has her end of the spiel thing of her visit these places thing. Mine's going to be, please, if you take your cans to the transfer station, put them in the can bin. The more cans we collect, the more money in our can fund for things like the canine program, or later on tonight, we got a request by one of the nonprofits for a small donation. The more cans you put in the can bin, the more money we get from can recycling. So don't throw them in the aluminum recycling or the mixed recycling. Separate your cans, put them in the can bin, we'll turn them into cash, and we'll put the cash to good use for needy projects in the area.
All right, and I have one more. Roman Delights is the Roman Fest Dinner Theater this year. It's on Saturday, September 21st at 5:30. It's an Italian buffet show for $35. Bar opens at 4:30, and that's put on by the Hometown Rome Players. And it's also on Sunday, September 22nd at 11:30, which is sounds like a new thing, a breakfast show with a bar at 10:30. That's different. So go out and have a good time. And then there's a traveling library for homebound residents. That'll support the traveling library for the homebound residents in Rome. And it'll go to the Walden Park Prairie Restoration Project, 14 Mile Creek Watershed Group. All right, Supervisor Cole?
It's a busy weekend. I would put this off to next time, but it is this weekend. The Mini Mudder Obstacle Course at Tri-North Parks this weekend, Sunday from 10 to 3. About 150 kids have signed up for that, but you can walk in, still sign up or walk in. Leads me to where you go for all your tourist information or to sign up for a lot of these things, which is visitRomeWI.com. No, visit Rome, WI, we're getting to that. You just, wait on that one, I'll tell you about that one. Visit RomeWI.com. So there's also a new thing at Visit Rome, I'm gonna have them here, you can all have one. These are super fantastic, look how cute they are, little hiking and trail maps. This opens up and it's got all the hiking and trail maps. Well, it opens up, trust me, in Rome. And someone's gonna say, oh, but you missed one, but now they have the templates, so it can be updated quickly and as needed. So take one of those cute little things, you're gonna love it. And then Visit Rome has moved to the former US Bank Building. I think we all know this by now, giant sign, we've told you 10 times. But they will have an open house there. Saturday, August 31st, from 10 to 11 to 1, and complimentary hot dogs and ice cream. So who doesn't want to miss that? So if you can't go to that and get your hot dogs and ice cream, stop in there anytime between 9 and 5 or Saturdays 9 to 1. If you are part of a nonprofit organization or a small group and you'd like a meeting place, you can contact Visit Rome. There is a large conference table, about 15 people can fit around that table, and you can use that space for a meeting. But you cannot, as Lisa said, have a kid's birthday party there or something like that. So, last, now this one, no, that's at the bars. So, if you are looking for information about the town website has changed. It's now romewi.gov. So remember that. The .com will stay active for a while, but then like anything else, it's gonna go away, and it's romewi.gov. Whew, okay. I hope you have nothing.
I got just one more.
Oh, sorry.
Are you done?
Yeah, I think so.
To piggyback on what Chairwoman said, the Papa's Putter for Paws, there is a shotgun start at 6:30. We do have food truck arriving at 5 o'clock, so the event officially starts at 5. We will still take same-day registration. We'd like you to do it online at thevisitrome.com. But if you don't do it online and you have that night free, still please come on by. They will take same-day registration. But food truck and stuff starts at 5, shotgun start at 6.
Whew, okay.
Busy month.
Department and committee reports. Anybody have any questions?
I don't have any,
owe
oh, sorry.
everybody a EMS district and lifestyle report. I was planning on sending that out to Vincent, but I've been running into some issues with email, so I will get that out to him so he can get it to all of you. Not complaining, just saying, but it's great that we've got .gov, and I wanna thank Jason for implementing that, because I asked about it over a year ago, and it's very important that we have that, and what that means to us is that we have a more secure system to work under, having .gov, it is, for security purposes, a much better way to have our emails and our system running. So thank you very much, Jason, for your efforts in getting that done, and the staff that helped him implement that. So thank you to all of you. Discussion and possible action on the following items. Discussion and possible action, approval of the August 1st, 2024 town board meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, so, we've got a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Evenson to approve the minutes of the August 1st, 2024 town board meeting. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries. Approved checks number 46586 through 46666 totaling $288,351.54. Auto payments totaling $116,734.51. State Social Security Medicare withholdings totaling $41,926.97. Payroll vouchers V22348 through V22480 totaling $113,118.64, and checks 21681 totaling $1,771.98. Receipts 25784 through 25870 totaling $318,088.81.
I move to approve the checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries as presented.
A second.
Motion by Supervisor Evenson, second by Supervisor Cole to approve the checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, appointment of town officers pursuant to Wisconsin Stat 60.30 Sub 1 Sub E. Wendy Newsom to town clerk. I'll move to approve Wendy Newsom to the position of town clerk.
Second.
Motion by Chairwoman Jumati, second by Supervisor Minter to approve Wendy Newsom to the position of town clerk. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I get this wrong again. I'm gonna try. Appointment of town officers pursuant to Wisconsin Stat 60.30 Sub 1 Sub E. Robbie Schaub Remler, Town Finance Director, Treasurer.
I'll make a motion to approve Robbie to Town Finance Director, Treasurer.
I'll second. Motion by Supervisor Gabriel, second by Chairwoman Jumati to approve Robbie Schaub Remler to Town Finance Director, Treasurer. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action. Approval of the resolution number 24-, a resolution approving the carry forwards of 2023 to 2024.
Move to approve the carry forwards as presented.
A second.
Okay, there's a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Cole for the approval of resolution number 24, a resolution approving the carry forwards from 2023 to 2024. Discussion?
Why is Parks non-Syracuse a negative number? It's in parentheses that would traditionally indicate a negative number. It could have a negative carryover.
They used it for expenditures related to parks other than Syracuse, so that's where the negative.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's a negative off of the bigger number up
Yes.
above it.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I had a question regarding the highway, prior year, revenues. There was discussion, and we have it in our minutes from last year, There was one project we had carried over money of approximately $47,000, Robbie, from when 14th Avenue, it actually was part of the Apache project. There was money left over because of the road base, then we carried it over to 14th Avenue, and the road base was good. So then, or something like, we had money about $47,000. And that was, I believe we had made a point of talking about using that towards projects this year. So is that in that $77,000 that's being carried over to projects this year? Can you clarify?
I'd have to look into that.
Okay.
On the numbers here, I don't see that number, but I can look into it for you.
And it had to do with the road base on 14th Avenue in front of Woodland Lutheran Church, so. Okay, and that was a specific number we had discussed last fall when that project was completed late in the year. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action. Approval of request from the Hometown Rome Players for sponsorship of this year's Roman Fest.
Move to approve the request of $100 from the Hometown Rome Players for sponsorship at both shows, to be paid for with monies in the Community Can Fund.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Gabriel for the approval of a $100 request from the Hometown Rome Players for sponsorship of this year's Roman Fest. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action. Approval of ordinance number 24- amending Town Code Part 1, Administrative Legislation, Chapters 1, 20, 34, 39, 45, 57, 72, 86, 95, adjusting references from Town Clerk Treasurer to Town Clerk and/or Town Finance Director Treasurer.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could just give.
Oh, certainly.
I'll
I'm
just give
sorry.
a general overview. I won't go into
Yes, I'm
detail.
sorry. I didn't look up to acknowledge you.
But this comes after, last meeting where, the town electors, did authorize and then the town board approved, the splitting of the position of town clerk treasurer into separate positions. So then, of course, what needs to happen, along with number 12, is an adjustment to our ordinances. So, in an effort to be clean, in going into each one of them, we have ordinances that are really divided into two sections. Part 1 is what's referred to as administrative legislation. Part 2 is the general legislation. So this is taking care of all of the Part 1 ordinances. So administrative legislation, anything that referenced town clerk treasurer is now updated to reference either town clerk or town finance director treasurer. Just a couple ordinances that I'd like to draw your attention to, just to give some a bit of more explanation to what the wording says, because it's more than just a reference to town clerk treasurer with a an X through town treasurer. So chapter 39 first. This is a later item in your agenda for the policy, or in this for the policy. So ordinance 39. Is the ethics ordinance. That had a section in there that referenced outside employment, but we have a policy, policy 2.06, that covers secondary employment. So you'll see a whole paragraph crossed out of under chapter 39. That's section G. That is now moved over. You'll see that in a later agenda item that now covers secondary employment, all under the same thing, rather than to try to hunt for it in ordinance or policy. Chapter 45 is another area that just wanted to talk through. First off, under chapter 45, that's finance and taxation. The first section, which is preparation and adoption of the budget, you'll often see in ordinances a general reference that the town board has responsibility for the preparation of the proposed budget as required by 6590. I just put that in as a lead-in. Now, of course, the town board can then utilize different, positions to help in the preparation of that budget. The overall responsibility, though, is the town board. So I did put that as a lead-in sentence in that section. Also, there's a section, it's 45-6. 45-6 is a section for the statement of real property status. It's been in our ordinance for a very long time. It has the town clerk and town finance director treasurer as responsible for that. One thing that I noticed as I was looking through that, though, was a reference to a turnaround of 1 day. Well, as things become more complex and additional reporting might be required in a statement of real property status, I looked at other ordinances to see what kind of timelines were typically referenced in this type of ordinance. I would say very few reference that kind of short 24 hours. Most of them will reference 3 days or 5 days as a minimum to turn around that. And that's to allow for maybe utilizing other staff, utilizing other resources to get that statement of real property status. So then I did make that update to 3 business days. That was probably the most prevalent as I looked through other ordinances that reference this. Very few. I think I only saw one other one that had a 24-hour turnaround. So 3 business days is proposed under that section. Finally, chapter 72. 72 is the section that references officers and employees, and you'll see under chapter 72 first the reference now just under 72-8 to town clerk, and then underneath that, under duties, that now just references 60.33 because that's the town clerk's duties. And then you'll see the inclusion of 72-15, which is the town finance director treasurer. And then similarly, you'll see that reference to 60.34, which is the reference to town treasurer duties, that now is referenced under 72-15. So in other words, when it was combined, both of those were referenced. Now they're referenced in each of the individual sections.
I just have one question. Before, when we've done this when we went to combining the clerk treasurer position, we had a slash, and I know this is just semantics, but it's something I've often questioned. I've seen other towns do it differently. When you put a slash, it means and or. To me, it's like she's the finance director hyphen treasurer. She's not and or the treasurer. She is the treasurer. So are we in fact saying she's either one or the other when we put a slash there with her? I know it's just, some people say, oh, it's just a word, it's just a term, but in effect, she is our finance director hyphen treasurer.
Yeah, finance director and treasurer, because again, treasurer duties and staff.
But slash can mean or. I know it's, but we have a
So-
teacher here, he could,
Okay.
I'm saying, I'm just saying that I've seen it the other way where it clarifies that she's both positions versus slash and or,
And I think that's probably in the employee position in your job description is clarifying that.
which we haven't, well, that's the next, okay. Just pointing it out, I guess, it's,
I guess my only question would be either to staff. Is that reflected differently in the ordinance as I proposed it to what you've seen used in the position descriptions? Okay, then I think we would leave it
as it is,
proposed.
okay. Thank you. Okay,
So I'll move for the approval of ordinance number 24, amending Town Code Part 1, Administrative Legislation, Chapter 39, Ethics, removal of Section 39-3G, outside employment. And then we incorporated, didn't we, am I on the wrong one?
Number 15.
Oh, I did such a good job too. We just replay that when that comes. All right, number 15, approval of ordinance number 24, amending Town Clerk Part 1, Administrative Legislation, Chapters 1, 20, 34, 39, 45, 57, 72, 86, 95, adjusting references from Town Clerk / Treasurer to Town Clerk and/or Town Finance Director / Treasurer.
I'll second.
motion by Supervisor Cole, second by Supervisor Evenson for the approval of ordinance number 24, amending Town Code Part 1, Administrative Legislation, Chapters 1, 20, 34, 39, 45, 57, 72, 86, and 95, adjusting references from the Town Clerk Treasurer to Town Clerk and/or town finance director / town treasurer. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16 was stricken at agenda approval time. Item 17, discussion and possible action, approval of update policy 2.606, secondary employment.
Nick kind of explained some of this, so paragraph A is what was in, town ordinance. We just, made a few changes to B, and we broke out part-time under C just due to part-time is a lot more flexible. We can't really tell a part-time person you only can work for us and no one else, cause they can't really make a living doing that necessarily, so we just kinda broke it out so it's clear. We also added that hourly or non-salaried full-time employees would have approval in writing from their supervisor before engaging in, secondary employment, so we know what they're doing and when they're doing it. This is consistent with policies in other municipalities for secondary, employment.
Want me to- Well, I'll move for approval of update policy 2.06, secondary employment.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cole, a second by Supervisor Minter for the approval of the update policy 2.06, secondary employment. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, approval of 2025-2029 ambulance and emergency medical services agreement and authorize town chairwoman to sign on behalf of the town of Rome. Jason or Nick? Or Nick, okay.
So this is a recommendation from the EMS District Board. So over the last several months, the EMS District Board has been working with Lifestar to put together some provisions and make a recommendation then to each of the respective municipalities for a successor agreement to the current EMS agreement that we have. And so this agreement does propose a 5-year term. And then I'll just call your attention to the couple areas that are changed in this agreement versus the existing one that we have. And so first on page 4, section 11, that's term. So it's going to run as a 5-year term from January 1st of 2025 through December 31st of 2029. And then so on the next page, under section 13 is where a significant amount of the updates had occurred. So in the proposal from Lifestar, Lifestar had proposed if we do a 5-year term, the first 3 years would be $362,086. Okay, so flat for the first 3 years. Then, as they had proposed, the second and third year, second and third year, no increase. Fourth and fifth year then, they had requested a reevaluation of the subsidy to determine the cost for those fourth and fifth years. As we worked with Lifestar, the goal that's reflected in language under section 13 was instead of a open-ended reevaluation, kind of idea, to put in some metrics to be a little bit more I think reasoned in how we are going to maybe authorize or approve a increase. And that's what this is doing then for years 4 and 5. So what years 4 and 5 are doing is basing any increase off of the employment cost index is what we're referencing. And that was, Lifestar had proposed a increase that was tied to that ECI. It's an annual report that gets put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics right around April of every year. It runs through the end of March. Lifestar's justification for tying it to that was that the main source of their increases, if they were to have an increase, would likely come from some of the employment cost index things, employment related, right? Salary and benefits. And so they had requested that any increase that would be put in place for years 4 and 5 would be tied to the ECI, and that there is a consumer and a government This ties it to the government sector, and it is the combined, so they'll look at salary, benefits, and combined. This is ECI government combined is what that is based on. Then there was a concern shared by Lifestar that in the event that something likely that wouldn't be necessarily tied to ECI required a greater increase in their mind, that there would be the ability in here to request an additional amount, okay, and that request would be accompanied by financial supporting the request. And then just to note that any adjustment that would be outside of that would have to follow the amendment provisions that are in our current agreement and are the same in this agreement, which would mean that we would mutually have to agree to amend it if there was a proposed cost that was outside. They had anticipated that if that were to happen, that it would come with, you know, some financials that justified it, and you know, there would be an increased discussion about it before any kind of amendment would be possibly proposed. Then the last thing that I'll just reference is Appendix A. That's the financing formula sheet. You've likely seen that before. The financing formula sheet that you have there in Appendix A is then based off of the 2025 year. And so that gives you an idea of what that financing formula would break down to for the 3 municipalities using that 2025 rate.
Can I ask one question? How long was the contract before I wasn't here? Was it typical 3 years before? Are we extending it to 5 or?
The last time it was 3 years, which was the very first time, and
Wasn't it it's only been 3 years since?
it was only the first time. It was 3 years, and that was similar to what they had done in the Adams County
Okay.
ambulance district, and they've extended theirs to 5 years now too, because it's getting harder and harder to find ambulance service in our area.
Just,
Well, and to Chairwoman's statement, we did a 3-year because we wanted to align the
Yes.
end with the district to the south
Yes.
to have those conversations collectively, you know, as
And it
contracts
would-
terminate. So you're exactly right. These do align. The other district also is considering the 5-year agreement as well.
It helps us with our talks and our
no,
bargaining and.
that's, I have no problem with it.
Did the other district also agree to the same escalation of fees tying it to the ECI increase, or are they still in negotiations?
The other district has an open-ended, they did not tie it to anything.
They didn't tie it to anything at all.
Okay.
It would be my recommendation that we tie it to something so we can plan accordingly.
And that was our recommendation to them, and we made Mike come back to us and talk to us, and he came back with this.
Typically, you want to have some
Some
things to
ceiling.
base it on. You know, CPI, ECI, that's just good practice in contracts, and so we do have it tied to these.
And
I
our
assume-
commissioners.
Oh, if
sorry.
ECI decreased, there would be no,
I think.
I don't think
yeah,
it would
I think
happen, but I
the
don't
way
know
this
what
is-
the future's gonna
The
bring
way
us.
this is written, it would be flat in the event of a decrease. It would
Okay.
only increase if ECI
Okay.
warranted the increase.
So it gave us, we have that built-in flexibility, which all the commissioners were very comfortable with, which is why we're all recommending it to each body.
So I have 2 questions. One is, I know one of the reasons that we went with the 3-year was to try to align with the Adams district south of us. And then the thought had been perhaps combining the 2 into one. That sort of is not going anyplace currently, I'm thinking.
Correct.
Okay, then my second question is related to when we look at the $261,679.56 going forward for the next 3 years, for the first 3 years of this. How does that compare to what are we paying, right, what's this year's cost that we're paying Lifestar?
We had that figure. You looking it up? Why are you typing? Nobody's saying anything.
Catching up,
I'm sorry.
What we're paying them.
catching up,
She's catching up.
editing.
Dead silence and her fingers are going away. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. 'Cause And normally I have that other sheet with me that we could have just looked right on there.
Can I ask a question? This is just for the ambulance service that are stationed here, correct? When we see these Flight for Life helicopters come in, that's a totally separate company that has nothing to do with the paramedic service that we have here, correct?
I'll let Jason answer that once he gets the number for us. Maybe we can look at our budget. Our numbers for- Is there a payment this month to the ambulance service, and then we just multiply it, cause it's a quarter, no, it's not a quarterly payment, is it?
So I think I found it.
Did you find it?
If the current amount, if the current agreement amount is 287,370, which I think it is, that's the total amount. Then the financing formula has the town of Rome at $207,464.40.
Could you please give us those numbers again, Nick?
Yes. So the 2024 total cost, it's our subsidy amount, is $287,370. The financing formula then puts that town of Rome's portion at $207,464.40.
And then the next one would be,
261,679.56. So up about $54,000.
Likely correlates to our increased population and number of calls.
and if you look at the report, the increase, which, by the way, we had a large increase in calls over the last month. Or a huge increase in calls, including helicopter. So,
At the committee meeting, the reason for the larger increase is the vendors' labor costs are catching up, because this was signed 3 years ago before the
yes,
spike started happening, so that was his explanation to the committee, that he has to raise it to make ends meet.
I'm not questioning that it's not justified. I just, obviously, that's going to be part of our calculations in the next couple of months as we put the budget together.
yeah.
So,
And that's a conversation that's happening at the town association with the state as well, and the state's having, with the lobbying down there, because critical care paramedics are getting harder and harder to find, and people going into that field, so it's harder to employ them and keep them on staff, so we gotta pay for good help.
I move to approve the 2025 through 2029 proposal for Lifestar Ambulance Service with the BFM, is it BFM Fire District?
No, ambulance service.
BFMR, there we go, I gotta
Yeah.
get the R there. BFMR, Fire, Emergency Paramedic District, as presented, and authorize the town chair to sign on behalf of the town of Rome.
I'll second.
We have we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Evenson for the approval of the 2025-2029 Ambulance and Emergency Medical Services Agreement for the BFMR EMS District Agreement, and authorization for the town chairwoman to sign on behalf of the town. Any more discussion?
Just to answer Tom's question, the ambulance calls mutual aid from the helicopter, and we're not billed, so when there's a third party, they have their own internal mutual aid agreements that cover those services, and so then the person taken by the helicopter obviously would be billed.
That's billed to our EMS stops once they transport it
Correct.
to the helicopter, and that's the end of their.
Correct, the town gets no further, our agreement is our agreement. When a helicopter comes, the town pays nothing for it, the patient is responsible for the costs.
And also, to build off of that, our financing formula then does pull out mutual aid calls for service for those call volume numbers. Which is important, right? If we have a lot of mutual aid calls, then are in one municipality, you want those pulled out and have actual calls for service, not just mutual aid calls adding into that.
Any more questions? Comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action. Select 3 dates in early to mid-October for budget meetings.
I will throw a wrench, and I'm gone the week of October 14th.
Good, I'm gone that week too.
There we go. Okay.
Well, there is, some there's a convention too. Oh, that's the 6th through the 8th. Okay.
Are you looking at evening times, I would assume?
Yeah, I guess what are the parameters and how much time are we setting aside on any of these given dates?
Typically in the past, Jason, what do they normally take us, Robbie? You remember, sometimes we spend as much as an hour and a half to 2 hours on a budget meeting, correct? Depending on the number of departments. We usually take them in chunks, so.
Seemed like that last year, about 2 hours, because beyond that, you get kind of worn out. Are we looking at a particular day of the week, or how do we want to go about this?
What time of day do you usually have it in?
Yeah.
Well, evenings, are you still
Evenings
pretty
are fine.
busy in October?
It's extremely busy, but in the evenings I could do it. It's just like days are a little tougher. I'd have to be, if it was during the daytime, a Tuesday or a Wednesday would be about it for me, but otherwise evenings are fine.
Okay.
Same with me. Your evenings are better.
Well, we need 3 of these, spaced like a week apart.
Okay, so what dates are we, somebody speak, because
So
we're
we just
asking you
tried-
questions.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So
it
I
sounds
think
like
he's looking,
Wednesdays are good. How about the 2nd, the 9th, and the 23rd?
well, I'm wondering if we could look at Thursdays, because Wednesdays are bad for me.
Monday-
Wednesdays are bad for me.
Tuesdays, the 1st. How about the 1st?
First is fine.
October 1st, sold, going, gone.
All right, October
would
1st
be
sounds like good. October 1st sounds good. Jason, you,
But that's gonna be a little hard
Robbie?
for Cheryl to be here.
oh,
No, it's fine.
Can we go, do you want 5:30? Is it easier for you? Cause
No, it's 15, 20 minutes. He'll just have to deal with it.
okay, so 5 o'clock on,
He'll be fine.
it's no, understanding that our staff works till 4, and it runs into some situations for them with their time. Is 4 o'clock unheard of for people? I know it's very hard for Supervisor Minter with school.
No.
What about 4:30, maybe?
4:30, I mean, anything after 4 works for me, because I can, I have the flexibility in my position. I'm not contingent upon what time the kids leave the building. That's my principal's responsibilities. So for me, I can leave school at 3 o'clock to grab a bite to eat to get here.
I was just throwing it out
by
there as an
4 o'clock.
opportunity to.
it looks like
But
Tuesdays, I'm flexible. Seems like Cheryl would like them.
It is, Tuesdays would be okay, but 4:30 would probably be the earliest.
Because I can't the rest of those Tuesdays either.
So the 1st at 4:30.
So the first at 4:30.
Except 4:30, okay.
But then we can't on the 8th because we have Plan Commission, the 15th, and the rest of them are out from, so can we look at possibly,
What
how about,
happened
we
to
have
the
town.
7th? Is the 7th
Well, how
no good?
about, we have CDA on the, so that'll be hard on the 3rd. How about we look at,
Thursday the 10th,
no, she said Monday the 7th.
Thursday the 7th.
Monday, the 7th would be fine for me too.
How's that for Jason and Robbie? Oh,
I just wanted to say something, because Wendy just sent it out, there's that conference, the 7th and the 8th.
oh, that's right, that's the Wisconsin Towns Association, I'm going to
Oh,
that too,
yeah.
and I won't be back in
Yes, I
time.
am too.
No, yours wasn't Towns Association.
Oh, no.
Which one
But
is
I
she
just sent
going
out
to?
about Towns Association.
Which one are you going to?
I don't remember.
We got a lot of work to do on October 1st then.
Oh, the law, yeah.
Wednesday the 9th.
Oh, is that the one for the 16th? Because I want to go to that
See,
too.
I'm still open at the course in the
Can you
evening.
sign?
Robbie
how
and I
come-
can't that night.
Okay, so the 7th is no good.
The 9th is no good.
9th is no good.
Jack,
I
I go
can't-
out the whole next week.
I could do October 10th.
What day of the week is that, Lori?
That's a Thursday.
So we-
Though, that would be hard for me. But
Excuse me, but just if we could back up the train a minute though, while we talk, because I had one question, but I'll wait till next meeting agenda items.
No. My hair appointment's at 2:00. I'm done at 4. Maybe get here 4:30.
What about the Mondays, the 21st and 28th?
No, I won't be here.
On the 21st.
Well, those days sounded good.
I won't be here the week of the 28th.
Could we take the Monday, that is their park meeting on Monday,
Could we
the
maybe double
21st?
them up one week?
That
Is
is
it
the park
possible? Can we,
21st.
possible to double them up one week? Like the week of,
How's October 2nd for people?
October 1st and October 2nd?
So do we, not that we don't want Jackie here, but if Jackie can't make that week, we still have enough people that we could
True.
do
Oh,
something.
no,
the week of the 14th.
Dan said he's gone too.
Oh, he's
the
gone
week of
too.
the 13th.
oh,
I think, last year you did it in 2 meetings, because I think Jamie set 3 and you didn't use the third one, so.
we didn't, oh, did it? I thought we didn't use the four. Oh, okay, did we?
What happened, how about October 4th? It's a Friday. Everybody, that would be bad news, but it's a Friday. Is that an
I
available
won't be
date?
here. I'll be out of town.
And we said the 7th was out, right?
2nd?
What about
The
if we go
7th.
if we push it forward?
Oh, that's right, I forgot.
What about if we pushed it forward into September, the last week of September for the first one, instead of trying to get them in October when it seems like we're having some conflict here?
Our policy says October.
Oh,
But-
okay.
Because they
Just an
need their
idea.
time, the department heads need their time to
That's fine, I didn't-
financial,
So
yeah.
nobody could make it on the 10th? Is there a problem with the 10th?
I can do the 10th at 5.
I can do 5 at the 10th, but not earlier than that.
What's the date for what day of the week?
Thursday. And-
I could do it, it'd have to be 5 instead of 4:30.
5 o'clock is fine.
5 o'clock is fine.
5 on the 10th.
Could we do the 9th on October, 9th of October at 5? I could cancel that. I know I could cancel.
No, Robbie and I cannot be.
No.
here.
Oh,
That's
that's also on,
Graham.
that's part of the conference
No,
too?
that's something completely different.
Oh.
So if we go to the week of the 21st, can we do the Wednesday the 23rd? Tuesday the 22nd? I prefer not to do the 24th.
Yes and yes.
Tuesdays are better for me.
22nd?
Probably not for me on that Tuesday because I have to move my board meeting from the 15th to the 22nd.
23rd?
23rd at
3rd I'm
5?
open.
23rd is good for me.
There you
I
go.
can do that then. I guess I'll cancel that too then.
4:30?
4:30 I'd
5?
appreciate.
I'm just,
4:30 instead.
On the 23rd, I'd appreciate that.
I can do that.
hey,
Set.
so
October
10:1
2,
at 4:30, 10:10 at 5 o'clock, 10:23 at 4:30.
Correct.
I might be slightly late on the 23rd, but I will attend.
Got plenty of time to figure it out.
On behalf of the library board, can I kindly request that library be on the agenda for the 23rd of October, please, based upon when our library board meeting is in October?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Was the last one the 23rd or 24th?
23rd.
Don't put all the heavy-duty ones on the same night. Because that happened last year and it was like, I think our eyes started to roll back in our heads. That's,
Hey, I just did a 457 line item budget worksheet for school, so.
The library budget is the easy one.
Alrighty.
Water's even easier.
so we have that set.
Where are we?
5 o'clock.
All right, item 20, discussion only, board member budget priorities. Let's do a quick rundown. Cheryl, did you think of anything that's a priority for you or a couple items?
Yes, I want to put the safety, I think our police, our fire, and our EMS need to be top priority. If they got equipment that's gonna be needing to be done, just things like that, I think we just need to revisit, maybe some extra money. I saw a letter from the commission saying that maybe they could use some more funding. So I think that's really important, especially as our community is growing. We want to make sure that we have a good, solid force here behind us. And then highway, I want to make sure our roads where they should be.
Great. Supervisor Minter.
I'll skip roads because that was already mentioned. I would say, figuring out the final funding for that K-9 unit. Then, looking at infrastructure like the parks, roads. And by then we'll be out of money, so. Well, it's realistic. You know, we've already got a $50,000 hole, so. But ambulance is important. People want the ambulance, so.
And they're very happy with the service, and there was no question
Yes.
about renewing it, so it's,
No, yeah, right. We just have
They're
to
saving
work
lives.
around it.
all right. I'm gonna move on to Supervisor Cole.
Roads, especially Timberline Parkway, and the development of the roads in the Rome Town Center, and focusing on the needs of the Rome Town Center in regards to business development and also the parks, because we've seen these plans with really no logical way to pay for them right now or to fund them.
Mine would be, again, the parks, figuring out a way to start funding that, the roads, as we all hear about. And I would agree with Cheryl, I think we all did get a letter from somebody in our mailbox. Somehow, our first responders, mainly the police department, to make sure we can get the best of the best to patrol our streets.
Okay. And then I actually have, I have budget priorities, as far as I agree with, the roads, EMS, and infrastructure, well, infrastructure overall. I happen to agree with the experts. That's why we hire them. That's why committees recommend things to the town board, and we as leaders make those tougher decisions. And so the infrastructure is important. So, the parks, because they're gonna draw people to this community, and there's younger families coming here, and they need things to do. Roads, so people can safely travel from place to place. And we need protective services. So those are my three things. And we can start small with parks and build them up, and not monkey with the plans. We have to have a plan in place and start somewhere. And then as far as a priority, I think we need capital improvement plans, which I've been preaching it, and we need them. And Robbie's a very capable individual, and I'm pleased to have her in her position. I'm thrilled we got there. And Jason, and they're gonna be working on those. Staff has been doing an amazing job. I'm thankful for all of them. And they're working on their SOPs, but capital improvement plans for our infrastructure and our equipment, so that we can plan with our budgets, and we're not pulling numbers out of thin air. So thank you all. All right, those are my budget priorities. So now, the board may adjourn into closed session pursuant.
Before you
Yes,
go
sir.
on,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think
Yes, Jason.
you had.
Did I miss
Some people
one?
had mentioned Timberline Parkway. Is that a priority for the 2025 budget to pave that? Is there a consensus? Because that would be good to give to our Public Works Director going into this, because that's a major project. So I think, you know, for him to do a budget, that's gotta be decided on if we're gonna pave it in 25 or if we're not.
Well, we're gonna have to really,
We need to know the cost of it so we can determine if we can do it in 2025 or have to extend it out, because development of that whole area is kind of depending on
So
it.
we'll bring that back. We'll have a price at the next regular meeting.
That would be very helpful.
And if you can ask what other infrastructure's there, I know we have water, is
That's it.
fiber optics, electrical, all that on that street yet or not?
I don't know about the fiber optics to that part, but I know the water's there. And that was a concern last year. What concerns me most, and I'm gonna say it again, is that the engineering's only 70% done. And when we put the water in, there was conversation, but we moved forward with the water. But the engineering didn't get completed, and there's other work that needs to be done as well. So we're talking, and now they've cleared it, but they'll have to clear more again. So we're talking additional costs besides just a road. So that's what we gotta think about. And the one thing that looking back, sometimes you have to look back and rethink things. When we borrowed money for roads this year, we should have thought about it then, but we didn't. So just moving forward, thinking of road projects next year, what's gonna have to wait. And that's why our PACER ratings and going out and looking at our roads and agreeing what really needs to be done and what can wait, we have to all agree on that. So, and work with our public works director and our administrative staff to really believe in what we're voting on. So that's, we have to all be in alignment with where the money should go for roads next year, because another borrowing package was not in our plans, so.
Did that answer your question, though?
Yeah, we'll
It
have
sure
well,
did.
We'll get the figures and bring them back
Okay.
at first meeting in September, so you can look at what the figures are and.
Thank you.
I just wanted you to know up front, there's engineering costs, not just a road.
And even the road's gonna be hundreds of thousands.
Oh. It's gonna be a surprise. Yes, we need to go, okay. Is that everything you needed then for the budget?
Yes.
Okay. The board may adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1 sub C for the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Town clerk compensation. Need a motion, please?
I'll make motion to go into closed session pursuant to chapter, I lost it. I stapled my papers back together. Pursuant to chapter, section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection C of the Wisconsin statute, which reads, consideration, employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluations, data of any public employee over which this government body has jurisdiction.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Gabriel, second by Supervisor Minter to adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1 sub C of the Wisconsin state statutes. Roll call vote starting on my left.
Stevenson, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Cole, yes.
Gabriel, yes.
We'll now go into closed session.
You all have a good night.
Did you want her in right away, or were we gonna call her in when we're done discussing and then bring her in? What was the preference?
Oh, it's up to you. Oh,
I need to plug my computer in.
on the rope. Oh, MSA.
Or do you need?
Oh, well, you know.
Well,
I want to I'll just go get my board and
Right?
Yeah. I like the sense.
That's funny. I've stared at that thing for a couple of weeks and I never caught it.
No, I just caught it a couple minutes.
MSA plan says village of Rome.
That's fine, I gotta bring my cord, my computer's about.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll see you or talk to you tomorrow. Wendy went to go get a cord because her computer's gonna.
Oh, okay. We'll call you in when we're ready.
Okay.
Nice and close to a banker.
Yeah, really.
That's where I would put
I
it.
know.
Right on the highway.
My screen is so tiny, I can't see it.
You need a bigger computer.
I have two of them in my desk.
Well, you need a big one in here. Bring one with you.
That was not an argument, that was the one.
You were agreeing that they should be smashed in the
So
middle.
instead it should be next to an apartment.
I got a perfect spot for him, but.
Yes, I agree with you, we should talk to somebody.
Talk to somebody
I
later.
know the landowner.
That's not our property.
We gotta wait for Jason, he's turning on something.
We went overtime to time this out. Shut off.
Is that what it,
Oh, where did it shut off?
for everything we covered tonight, 2 hours isn't bad.
I think it just shut off after
Oh.
7.
Oh, it just shut off now?
But for everything we covered tonight, this isn't bad.
All right, all right. So we need a motion to, the board reserves the right to reconvene into open session as authorized by Wisconsin statute, section 19.85 sub 2, and continue with the agenda.
Move to resume open session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85 sub 2.
I'll second.
Motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Evenson to return to open session as authorized by Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 sub 2. Roll call vote starting on my left.
Stevenson, yes.
Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Gabriel, yes.
Okay, and you have a motion for us?
Move that we increase the wage of the Town of Rome Town Clerk to a annual rate of $70,000 effective with the current pay period.
I'll second. We have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Chairwoman Jumati to raise the wage of the town clerk to $70,000 annually. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dates and items for future agendas and meetings. Next agenda items. We'll have budget planning. Maybe we'll have some wage and health information, benefit information by that time. Staff, or town board and staff organizational audit recommendation review and update. Perhaps we'll have some of those by that date. CDA bylaws, we had talked about that at our previous meeting, that we need to bring those forward to town board for final approval. And if we have a chance to get this on the agenda, especially with more retail space coming into town, I want to look at Act 73 and possible Delta 8, 9, and 10 ordinances, an ordinance. Okay, next meeting date,
I'd like to.
oh, sure.
I'd like to maybe talk about potential reallocation of the funds designated for that community room, so that we could look perhaps at funding the remainder of the K-9 unit out of those funds and possibly funding some small amenities at the Rome Town Center Park.
Okay. Okay, anyone else have anything else they can think of? Then maybe you could give us a total too at that time, Robbie, as to what we have, because we added those additional funds from the community can collection.
We
That'd
will
be-
have some numbers coming back for the sound system in that room.
That'll be great, that was gonna be my next question, so if we reallocate that money, what we can and can't
Yeah,
do.
what we have, we want to do the sound system, what do we got left after we do the sound
We had
system?
some sound system and some furniture for the room.
Excellent.
New microphone for that podium that always crackles.
This room's included with that room on.
Oh.
Oh, it's all one package? Awesome.
That's
Did we
beautiful.
get a new microphone?
Well, I'm just happy not to strangle myself when I walk through the front room anymore. Alrighty then. Next meeting date and time is September, oh my, alrighty.
September what?
September 5th. And just on another note, really quickly here, there is, the Wisconsin Towns Association Convention is, October 6th through the 8th.
I sent an email about it this afternoon.
I didn't, mine is
Just
still
sent
down.
it right
Well,
before we
oh,
left.
all right. And then there is a workshop on, September 16th up in Stevens Point for town board members, if you're interested in that, as well as some staff, specific staff members. So if you wanna attend.
If you want to attend, please get me your applications as soon as possible so that I can cut one check on the next check run
All right.
for that one, for all of it.
Did you send that out already too, or when did you did you send
The
it?
convention I sent out at, like, right before 4 o'clock.
The workshop, when did?
The
did-
workshop, I haven't sent that one out. so I
Okay.
didn't see that one.
All right, super. All right, anything else? And everybody's got their dates, all right? Motion to adjourn, or we're adjourned. 7:15 PM. Thank you, everyone.